Thank you all very much for coming, and especially we request blessings from the senior Vaishnavas in the room that you bestow your mercy upon us so that we can speak something relevant and bona fide. All the unbona fide things we were going to say, we can't say now, so so thank you for coming. So our topic today is devotee care. My name is Nitai. This is my good wife, Bhava Bhakti, Devi, Dasi. And we were inspired, maybe some of you heard this morning in the plenary, to share this principle of devotee care with devotees, and to that extent we've been traveling around different places, different countries to try to share. So our topic today is specifically building the future of ISKCON with care. And I was thinking that the future of ISKCON, because ISKCON is delicate, Srila Prabhupada said ISKCON is non-different from his own body. So it should be handled with care, just like we would handle Srila Prabhupada with care. And especially ISKCON devotees should be handled with care because they're very fragile. So I know I'm very fragile. As resilient as I may think I am, it takes one person to say the wrong thing in one way and, it all comes unwrapped. So devotees can be a little fragile. We should handle them with care. And if we see this sign on a package, we handle with, at least in the West, they use this term, kid gloves. We handle with kid gloves, means you take special care, very conscientious of how you're dealing. So devotees are also like that. This is a very wonderful letter. The entire letter is very instructive. Anyone's familiar with that letter? Okay. Anyway, I really encourage reading Prabhupada's letter. Is very powerful. But the main point of this is Prabhupada's mood that devotees should be considered the best persons, always. And he says that they're better than kings. And he doesn't just say the senior ones or the intelligent ones or the gurus or the GBCs or the sannyasis, but he says all of them. And so like this, and Prabhupada's mood here is also to become like the bumblebee, that we should try to see the good qualities in others, because the tendency is very much to often see the bad in others. Somehow or other that's okay, so the plot thickens. No pressure, no pressure. Okay. And I just learned so much from you just then, so perfect. So like this, so we're always looking for the nectar and the best qualities in a person. Anyone remembers the other analogy that Prabhupada used similar to this? So you have the bumblebee, or you're like the fly, exactly. And the fly is looking for stool, the pus, the dirty places. And what's the other analogy that Prabhupada uses like this? Anyone remembers? Crane, well, I think he says swans. But right, at least you got birds of a feather flock together, yeah. So the crows are found on the garbage heaps, and the swans are found flowing in the rivers. Yeah, so very nice.
So this is one of the quotes that we shared this morning. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. And like we were saying, we're going to meet different people in our spiritual life, especially when we start. There's always going to be someone, I met that devotee and they were really kind to me when I first came. They smiled at me in reception, or they gave me a book or some maha sweets. Or someone who spent time with you. And you may not continue to see them in your life. They move on, you move on. But they've added, like I was saying, those seeds or those stepping stones that form your foundation. One example that I can share is there was two devotees in particular that were very pivotal when I came, and they were in different departments. One was just at the top of the stairs, and she was always smiling and waving and welcoming. And then there was someone, and then you went to the next level in ISKCON London, and someone was in the shop. And it always felt like wherever I go, there's a friendly face, there's someone, and they had time for me, and I don't see them now. One of them sadly has passed away, one of them I don't see now, but for me, what they did for me, they don't see me much either, but like I was saying in the morning, they created that blueprint for my spiritual life that I have then gone on to build on. And they didn't do it in a way that it was, I own you now, and what I've created you. They did what they did, and they did that with so many devotees, and then they just continue to do that. So this is a meaning of care, that it's not so much, what am I going to get out of it, and how many people am I going to have around me, but it's just giving out that support and love, and just building the future like that.
Anyone's aware of this principle of Chinese bamboo? That you plant a patch of bamboo, and it doesn't do anything for 5 years, nothing. And then all of a sudden, after 5 years, in 8 weeks it grows 6 weeks it grows 80 feet. So can you imagine continuing to water and service a field for 5 years where nothing is happening? So it's like that sometimes we don't know why we're putting the energy in. I often tell the story of one devotee who came to the movement. He had really serious addiction problems. And I was trying to work with him and, help him. And he'd do really good for a while, and then he'd disappear. And then he'd come in, he'd call me up in the middle of the night, literally the middle of the night. And he'd be like, "Hey, man." And so we kind of worked together for some time. He used to come and stay at the place where I was staying outside, and I'd let him kind of dry out for a week or two. And slowly, it took a long time. I used to go in front of the deities and just pray, Actually, I would say to them, "Why did you send this boy to me?" I'd be like, why am I giving so much time to him? He seems like, literally, it was like that. It was like somehow I was meant to do it. And sometimes people seem to be so far gone, you just think you have to cut your losses. But I just continued to give him time and time and time, and then after probably it was a good 2 years, 3 years, he joined fully into the ashram. He took saffron a few years later, got initiated, second initiated, and then he went on, he left London, he went on somewhere else, he became a temple president somewhere else, and he went on and he's still very much connected, and now he's doing amazing work and activities in so many different places. God bless you. And so we don't know the seeds that have been planted, and sometimes we have to work the field not knowing what the result's going to be, but we have to just try to give ourselves to it as much as possible. So like that.
So the International Devotee Care mission statement is, our mission is simple. We want every devotee to be spiritually happy, materially well situated, and positively identifying with ISKCON as a caring society. And normally that last one, when we read that, it's like, yes, spiritually happy, yeah, materially. ISKCON as a caring society. And generally that gets people like, But that's what we're trying to help with.
How do you all feel about this? Yes, Mother, looks like you have something you'd like to say. Yes.
It seems like that at least if most of the people that are around them are caring, they'll feel that. Even if they hear uncaring things in other parts of ISKCON, it seems like it would still have a very positive.
What came into my mind to respond is, I was going to say unfortunately, but it was the first meeting with all the GBCs and gurus during the festival here in Mayapur, maybe 10 years ago. The first devotee care meeting. And on the stage there were maybe half a dozen gurus and sannyasis. And what struck me is, I won't say names, but one of the sannyasis started to testify how he, a big sannyasi with disciples, a guru in fact, he had been cared for, especially since he was a big person in ISKCON, and how wonderfully he had been cared for. And he probably didn't intend to make me or perhaps other people feel that, yeah, Maharaj, but you know what? Maybe it's got to do something to do with the fact that you're a big sannyasi. And that this kind of treatment precisely is not given to the rank and file. I just wanted to say this, not in a critical way, but it came into my mind.
Jagannath Sharanpur, could you just hold on to it? This bottom section. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure when that person was talking about, but maybe now in that situation he was. But it's likely, I think, as Bhava Bhakti was saying, that everyone has had to feel some care along the way in order to stick around. It's usually people go away because they feel a lack of care. But yeah.
So here Krishna addresses Arjuna, my dear Partha, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. So the essence being, as we were saying again this morning, that we're trying to please Krishna. That's what we're trying to do here. But the best way to please him, the easiest way, the quickest way is just please his devotees. Just care for them. Just look after them, give them shelter. No one should feel hurt or invisible or that they don't matter. And in this way, for sure, guaranteed, Krishna will be very easily pleased.
So Prabhupada quote, Vedic civilization is Sarva Sukhino Bhavantu. Everyone be happy. This is Vedic civilization and this is the way. So this is Lord Chaitanya's mission. So you can see Srila Prabhupada is saying everyone should be happy. We should be making all the devotees happy. There's the big quote in the front room. A leader should spend most of their time trying to make others happy. So like that.
So, we wanted to ask you in one word, just one word, what do you understand as in terms of what is devotee care? Just anything that springs to mind. We get this question ourselves a lot at the booth. People come up to and say, devotee care. So what is devotee care? And then we say, what is it to you? So in one word, what would devotee care be? Rahul.
So this is... If you were in the plenary this morning, Radha Gopinath Prabhu mentioned that really the essence is learning to be sensitive to the need of the individual who's in front of you, which ultimately is love. But yeah, just understanding if it's a young child or a middle-aged person or an older person, if it's a, whatever is their need, to be sensitive to that and knowing how to look after them. This is quite a mature list. Often the thing we get, anyone would like to guess the 3 top words we usually get? Sport? Support? Nope. Not exactly. First aid. Yeah. Someone came to the devotee care booth the other day and said, my friend hurt his foot. This is devotee care. And we were like, okay. It's true, right? We usually get 3. First one is old people, sick people, or dying people. So they think devotee care means you look after them when they're sick, you look after them when they get old, or you look after them when they're about to die. And that's often the idea of devotee care. Yes.
We always take care understanding like old age, like sick people like this. But for a healthy future, present even, better we care young generation, childs. It is more important.
Just so it's clear, I wasn't saying that those 3 things were correct. I'm just saying that that's often the misconception that people have. It's because you're getting old. When you were younger, you thought, who cares about those?
So, next question for you. But why is devotee care important? Could be because we're getting old, but why?
Our spirituality is manifest in how we deal with others.
Very nice. Did everyone hear that? Our spirituality is manifest in how we deal with others.
Oh, my voice is down. So, base we have to care devotee. Why we came for devotee communication. That is Mahaprabhu's mission. For Mahaprabhu's mission. Care.
That's nice. Stay. Oh.
Why is it important? Thank you. You need glasses. Yeah, no, I do, but I thought it was written on that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. 20 years ago, here in Mayapur, I was asked if I would head a hospice for the dying people. And I rejected the idea. I said, that's too hard for me. I don't have enough empathy for people, you know. And I think that whoever can do that is a very advanced soul. Whoever can care for other people in need, aside from our normal relationships, whoever can go the extra distance, they're very amazing people. Whoever can do that.
Yeah, I think it's very easy sometimes to say, if someone's in trouble, if you need anything, let me know. Well, well, one time I kept saying that to one young mother. If you need anything, let me know. It's all right. If you need it, and the third time, okay. And she was a new mother. She said, I really fancy some kachoris and samosas. I thought, oh my God. Better go and get them from Govinda's or something. So I was like, yeah, okay.
Can I add one? I think the one which is pertinent for me is, I think devotee care is important because I need care, and so I've been supported myself over time, and so therefore it's incumbent upon me that others will also need care. So naturally, we all need care at different times. It's not scheduled; it's just we need it at certain times in our lives.
So, what would you say are the reasons for a lack of devotee care? If we identify what it is, why we should have devotee care, but why don't we have devotee care? You know.
On the course, these are the ones I think I mentioned in the morning. Some of you know when Rasamanda Prabhu developed the course, he interacted with about 50 leaders from around the world. And the top three, this is 3 or 5, I think. Self-interest or lack of concern and empathy. So whoever said that, those two. Short-term vision. They're not playing the long game. Not thinking long-term, but just what can I get out of someone for now? You know, more shooting star program. I was just talking to a devotee the other day, and I said, yeah, sometimes it's like it might be better to get a little bit of service out of someone for their whole life rather than to get a whole lot of service for just a moment, you know. Or sometimes book distributors, we have head of book distribution, you know, sometimes it can be push books, but better they do a few books for their entire life, you know, each year, rather than push them really hard and then they're fried and they go away, and have the mentality, which I heard it so quite a few times. Devotees say, oh, I did my time on book distribution, like they've been to prison, you know. I did my time. It's like because they weren't getting that kind of taste. Wrong priorities, a failure to see the need for devotee care. So we have actually heard different times leaders say, what's the point? Like literally, they're like, what's the point? It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. It's material, yeah, it's actually like kind of that mentality. So lack of individual empowerment is a reason for lack of care. Someone was describing the other day that there's often a tendency to keep everything here instead of giving it out, engaging more people, empower them. Who was just sharing Vaisheshika Prabhu's talk about community, not letting management get in the way, but actually, fanning that spark in others. You see someone, they think, oh, maybe we can do this. So often as leaders, at least my experience, because I've done it plenty of times, no, that's not the program we're doing. Just get with the program that we're doing, and then you kind of squash the devotee. Maybe that's a new video game or something, how to squash the devotee. And inadequate professionalism, which I think is like this, a lack of education, or just devotees not knowing who just went out of my... Maharaj, who gave the talk this morning before the GBC college, Bhadrinarayan Maharaj. So he was saying, he woke up one morning, Haribol, here's the key. I'm leaving, you're now the temple president. Make sure someone does Mangalarti. That's your training for how to be a temple president, whether you're ready or not. So like that. Okay. So now we're going to look at something called the spectrum of care. And anyone's familiar with this spectrum of care idea? So this is another concept that they came up with in the devotee care course. So they illustrated or established 12 potential areas of care, starting with spiritual life, which is the one that after the talk this morning, Rameshwar Prabhu called me over and he said, what kind of care is it? Is it material care or is it spiritual care? And I said, it's both. And of course, he kind of proceeded to chastise me. What kind of care is this, Prabhu? But he said, you didn't tell anyone. You didn't tell us what it was. So I was like, okay. But spiritual care is there. Of course, that's what we're giving all the time. We're teaching people how to chant. We're feeding them prasadam. We're getting them to read the books, engaging them in devotional service, deity worship. Say that again. It's not always personal. Individual in what way? Okay. Very nice, yeah. So sometimes it's just there on the shelf, but no one takes the box down and says, this is how you do it, and it's personal. It's like it's on offer, but it's not really administered in the most personal way. Is that kind of what you're saying? Healthcare, which can be broken down into physical and mental. And that's one of the things also, many of the places we've been, the first thing they say to us is, are you going to teach us how to deal with people who have mental health? It's a big thing. It's a big issue. Marriage and relationships, we have members of the Grihastha Vision team, so this is an area that's being looked after nicely. Child rearing and child care, education, career and employment. So then we start to get into things that sometimes, I know I was in one meeting and senior devotees said, we're a temple. Why am I don't need to worry about people's career. I don't need to worry about their employment. I don't need to worry about all their material things. So yeah, someone rang the bell there. So yeah. At first I was a little like, well, and then I thought, well, no, okay, in practical reality, in one sense, a temple may not be necessarily responsible for those things. But we're not just a temple. And maybe part of the challenge is that we are just a federation of temples. But we're more than that because Srila Prabhupada started the International Society. And in a society, a temple is just one part. It may be the central nucleus in one sense, everyone goes, but the society grows around the temple. So maybe the temple doesn't need to supply these material quote-unquote needs. Of course, there are quotes from Prabhupada where he says certain things like this aren't material if they're connected to Krishna. But the society and us as devotees, we should try to help, because if people don't have a decent material situation, it's very difficult for them to thrive in their Krishna consciousness. One of these is financial. I'm often reminded, maybe someone can help me. Shivananda Sain was instructed by Lord Chaitanya to help, was it Vasudev Dutt? Anyone remembers? Yeah, I think it was Vasudev Dutt, who just could not manage his money. Why? Because he was always spending it, giving it away. Giving it in charity, spending it for Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya specifically instructed Shivananda Sain, please help him. Why? Because Shivananda Sain was minted. He was loaded. He was such a successful person financially. That's how he paid for all the devotees to go every year from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. Paid for everything, managed everything, took care of everything. So his nature was to be like that. So Lord Chaitanya said, engage your skills and abilities in helping a devotee who doesn't necessarily have that skill and ability. Very good points. And this is the kind of thing we need to begin to think about. We were having a conversation the other day. Of course, there's a few brahmacharis in the room. I was also a brahmachari once. That doesn't mean you have to go the same way I did, but I'm just saying. But we were having a conversation about the brahmachari ashram, at least in the West, that there's often a tendency in the ashram, once they get to a point where they kind of feel like they need, that other kind of association and energy, but there's a pressure to push through. Instead of a training to leave the ashram and become a good grihasta, there's a psychological pressure to stay, because if I go, then it will be, it won't look so good, or how will I deal with it? Or it's Maya. It's all Maya. We're living in the material world, but Maya is a matter of consciousness. So if we're Krishna conscious, we can move and go in, but the training isn't there. Join another ashram means, yeah, exactly. But that's part of the derogatory and negative thing. So there's a care there. No problem if someone can go their whole life as a brahmachari, as Prabhupada said, the conundrum he gave, that all men should be brahmachari and all women should be married. and the devotee said, Prabhupada, how does that work? And he said, that's for you to figure out. So there you go. So here we are. So anyway, there's many areas of devotee care, and we were just discussing earlier that actually being at this event, we see just walking through the stalls, almost every stall is an opportunity for devotee care. And the problem is that we're seeing, the more that we're in this, is that there's someone doing something over here, and someone doing something over here, and someone over here who needs some of that, but they don't even know it exists. So just the other day we met a devotee, they have counseling skills, they want to help to look after devotees who are struggling. And they said, but there's nothing around where I live. Then up comes to the stall, a person, we start talking to them, they live in the same place, and they're running a devotee care project in the same place where that person lives. They didn't even know. So we connected them and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Living in the same place, they just don't even know. So often we just don't even see it because we're not putting it out there. It's not, you could say it's marketing. We're somehow not letting people know. Yeah, it's very small. So then also there are considered 12 recipients of devotee care, starting with ladies, cows also included in the devotee care syndrome, brahmanas, children, elderly, brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis, other temple residents, which may mean those who are employed in the temple, leaders, and senior devotees. So this is you could say it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a pretty good place to start, you know. So the idea is that over time we try to develop different ways to look after these different personalities in the different areas that they may need. We become sensitive to doing that. Does that make a little bit of sense? Everyone's kind of like, yeah, okay. I'm not on the spot. I deal with it all the time. Yeah. So there's two things. One is that if there's a distinction that let's say the administrator, the leader, is caring but doesn't have time to do it, then at least they can empower others to do it. So at least they're a caring administrator, even though they may not be hands-on doing it, and they may not even be the best example. That's one kind of scenario. But the other is that they're not into it at all, but you have a community who knows that needs to do it. Well, because I'm a little bit rebellious, I would say we don't need permission from that leader because we're all individual jivas, and we, of course, can care for one another. We don't need the permission of the leader of the temple to care for each other. I mean, I doubt if a mother and father go to the temple president and say, should I care for my child or not? You know, of course, in the past, we know many things or whatever, that better to leave the kid and go and do Sankirtan or something, you know, those kind of things. But the point is that we don't need that permission, but it's better if the leader endorses and supports and like that. My experience so far in many places is that, well, I guess we only get invited places where the leaders are kind of into it. Like Manu Prabhu, he kindly invited us to Ireland. But in some places you see that the leader is into it, but they just don't have time. But they at least endorse and support that can get done. Does that kind of answer the question? And hopefully I wasn't too controversial with my answer of being rebellious. You know, it's not like being rebellious. It's just like we don't need permission to care. We can care.
Okay, so this is a GBC resolution from 2019. It was resolved that the GBC encourages all ISKCON temples to hold the 4-day devotee care course entitled Embedding Care in Krishna Conscious Communities for all caregivers and administrators. So it's actually a resolution that was passed in 2019.
Here's an opposite. So what if the leader says, you all should care for each other, and they all say, that's the other thing.
There is a situation where there's a lot of Russian devotees that have come so they don't have to get enlisted in the war. They've come here. They may be on a 3-month visa, or they may just overstay that visa. There are many, many, many that have just overstayed the visa. They don't have any money. Some of them have very little money. And every day it costs quite a lot to live in Mayapur, you know, to get food, etc. And there isn't much devotee care for them. But what if someone was to set up a devotee care group for that type of people and to give them money or food or whatever, but then there's no end. There's just more and more come. And then the resources go, and is there a chance that when you set up a thing like this, it just gets overwhelmed straight away, especially with Indian people, for example, who may need things, or now the Russian people? It's just an example that is actually happening right now in Mayapur. You know.
Sorry. So, I mean, of course we can get overwhelmed with these things. I guess the idea would be to set something up in such a way that it's manageable first. And also, somehow, first thing that came to my thought is, what is a quote from Jesus that, you know, we don't eat fish, but, you know, you teach a man to fish, you know, you don't feed them, you teach them how to do something. So education and how to do something is always better than, you could say, just free handouts. But Srila Prabhupada instituted the whole Food for Life program that within like a 10-mile radius of any of our temples, no one should be going hungry. I mean, so that was an instruction directly from our founder, Acharya. And I mean, we try our best in London, but there are still people going hungry. And we actually used to refuse people, homeless people coming into the Sunday program, because if you let a homeless person come in, and I mean, apart from the fact that you can't pay attention to the class because it smells so bad usually, and everyone else leaves, yes, and then you just got but to that extent, we would try to feed people outside. So I think it's trying to figure out where the balance is with trying to assist and serve and help them without yourself becoming overwhelmed like that, or your institute. This is a very interactive group.
What said Prabhu, it's right, but I'm thinking the better not go that way, what need food or like this, better make courses, and these people who need like food or like involve to seva, like job, get interest to this or that or that. So we found that like psychological support means we have to understand like by test, either checking what she can do, she or he, whatever, and then guide what can do. The care team, I'm thinking, to come together and they know, means this person knows this, and we send there. Like this is the what say in the charaya, like the cross. Means some people need this, we send there. Some people like this. And we understand who, what possible, and help them. No food. Food is not helping. It's today eating and sleeping. So what? It's not helping.
I think you're a perfect caregiver, and you should start. Where are you from?
I have mixed blood.
Well, where do you live?
I live now in Mayapur 4 or 5 months.
Can you speak to him and try to help him out? It's called a crisscross thing. I think you should speak to him and he can help.
I'm from Iran and my grandma from Kashmiri. I live now half Himalaya, little 4 or 5 months, Mayapur.
Okay.
Hi, Krishna.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so this is the devotee care course, so kind of running a little bit short on time. So this is just a basic brief of the course that you saw. How many were in the plenary this morning? Okay. So, ha-ha! Yeah, oh, okay, guys. You came to it's your penance. Anyone who didn't come this morning had to. Yeah. Well, there were lots of other good things in the plenary. So, excuse me, the devotee care course is now being run all over in many different cities around the world. And the idea, one misconception is we're going to come in and set up a care system, and we're going to tell you how to solve all your problems. That's not the point. The point is that we come in and we encourage you to figure out how to resolve your problems. Because the experience is often within that community there are probably people who are already in a position who could assist and who could help. Sometimes there needs to be some more discussion, or as my wife said this morning also, some places we go, devotees are like, oh wow, we've never sat in a room for this long and just talked together since we've been in the movement. And you think, wow, how long have you been serving here? And they're like, 15 years. It's like, oh wow, isn't that great? So sometimes just coming together and getting to know people who you serve with every day can make a profound difference. Yes, Rahul?
When GVT was giving the course, Pathpun Uttama Mataji, we saw husband and wife telling that we have not conversed for so many years as we have conversed now. So it's been husband and wife, what to say of devotees in the same.
Please don't bring that up. My wife might expect me to talk to her now after this, you know, right? A group of professional psychiatrists or psychiatric counselors, they call them? Psychotherapists, thank you. And so they started a little program called Mind Space in order to assist devotees who have issues like that. Now, there's also Hare Krishna. There's also, right? Okay. You came for this one or you're here for the next one? Oh, you're very early, very punctual. and I'm very late. Okay. So, yes, that's the point, that within our communities there are likely persons who can do these things and they don't even know that they can, or that they're needed, or that they're wanted. So by having a conversation, it creates possibility. And in that possibility, things happen. But often what happens is for years there's no conversation, and that means no possibility. It's only the same thing that's been going on and on and on for ages. So sometimes just talking about the situation can be a very healing. I'm not saying if someone needs professional help, that's another thing. It's a big topic, but I don't think that we're going in trying to be a quick fix for anyone. As we said, we're playing the long game. We're very clear that all we're doing is planting seeds for trees that will grow that we will not see the shade of, but we still plant them. We still do the work. It doesn't mean that just because we show up at your temple and do a course, everyone's like, wow, we all love each other. That it isn't going to happen like that. But at least we start to converse about what the situation is, what we can do, how can we do it, how can we care. Oh, we're meant to care for the devotees? Some places are like, and that's serious of an issue, So it's not a quick fix, it's not a Band-Aid, it's a conversation that's beginning to happen so that things can move forward. My experience so far is there aren't any quick fixes. The material world is meant to be broken. It's meant to be broken. You can't fix it. The only thing we can do is make the best of a bad bargain. As devotees, we learn to love each other now so that we can prepare ourselves to be in the spiritual world with Krishna, which is the ultimate fix. But if we can't learn to love the devotees while we're here, I don't know, I can't say, I'm not, it's unlikely we're going to get out of the material world. So, like that. So we still have time, but I was feeling a little pressure and everyone started picking up their bags. Are we okay to continue for a few minutes? What kind of care is that? It's my space. Thank you, that's very nice. Anyway, part of the devotee care course is at the end, the devotees sit together in groups and they come up with a plan. So they don't just talk about it, they actually try to make some plan of how we can implement what we've learned, what we've discussed, what we've talked about, according to their means and according to their needs and of their community and their society, so like that.
So on the back of the strategic plan, whoever's presenting, whether it's us two or the other devotees, we do follow-up. For example, when we went to Houston, New Mayapur, if they're doing this, like strategic plan, and we have Zoom calls or we may go back and visit, so not just do the course, do the plan, okay, bye, but we keep following up. So what are you doing now? How's it going? What's the progress? So then they feel supported and they feel someone actually cares that we're doing this, but we can also see how it's going. But we leave the onus with them. It's not that we would go in and create that and stay there in that place, but we do follow up as well to make sure that they're getting on okay.
Also, part of the idea is to establish a devotee care office, just like in every temple pretty much has a department for book distribution, a department for the deities, a department for the kitchen department, cleaning, maintenance department. So there should also be someone who's in charge in the temple to look after the devotees. Their thinking should be, are the devotees okay? Are we looking after the devotees? How are the devotees? And then this is, because we're now serving at the manor, and they've come up with this vision that they want the manor to be a beacon of devotee care. So they're taking it seriously. We're going to America. Alachua has established a devotee care department already. Houston, even New Vrindavan has, brought a person in. They're paying them They're investing like so much money. Every year they created a budget to start a devotee care office to start to look after devotees. So temples are starting to invest in this. One devotee from a community said, I'm in a devotee care office. The temple is relatively well-to-do, and they said they just don't support us at all. They've kind of from the grassroots started it, but they're not getting empowerment. So like that, it's good if you have a center that's willing to do that. Yeah. Okay, so because I've talked too much, this is one of my problems. I just keep talking. So we usually try to break you into little groups and discuss how your yatra could be benefited by implementing devotee care. So we would encourage you to take this question away with you. You can take a picture or you can impress it in your mind. I can see Prabhuji there is really like, yeah, that question. So, and you can think about it later after the other 5 courses that you do today. But how can devotee care benefit our yatra? And then some reflection.
So, in conclusion, we empower ISKCON communities to better embed devotee care.
So again, these are the 3 focus areas for devotee care through education, networking, again by creating connections between devotees who have skills and who need the skills like that, and then showcasing best practices. Downstairs, there's the Vaishnavi ministry, there's the cow protection. There we saw this this group, I forget what was it called, the entrepreneurs situation. So there's so many good practices that devotees can avail of, but they need to know about it. Okay, and if anyone is interested to know more, then you can scan this QR code. We encourage everyone to take a, what's that? Oh, battery's gone. Okay. Yes, it was from that. So it was started, one of the things we used to show on here was a timeline. This all kind of started around 2006. Yeah. And I think the first ILS was more devotees, happier devotees. Anyone remembers that? I don't think so. Well, I think it's more like a principle at this point, and it's not that, like I said, it's not that the devotee care initiative here is coming in and setting something up. It's coming in with a principle, and it's encouraging those who are there on the ground to help to build the infrastructure that they can. I've heard that more than once. So, and Mayapur is our international headquarters, so you would think like that. Okay, I think that's it. We finished just 1 minute over. Yes, Hare Krishna. Please care for devotees.